Hello and welcome to Books of Blood. My name is John, and today I've got a review of Monstre, Volume 1 by Duncan Evans. This was sent to me by Duncan in exchange for an honest review, so that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to read the synopsis first, and then I will give you my thoughts on it. So here we go. Day 0. From the wreckage of a research facility in Switzerland, a plume of toxic smoke and ash pours into the sky, forming an I have trouble with that word. Impenetrable. All right. Impenetrable cloud that is slowly smothering the world in darkness. As Europe disappears beneath the cloud, a squad of United States Marines are sent on a desperate mission to find out what went wrong and how to undo it before it's too late. Venturing into a cold, dark world, the Marines must travel deep under the cloud with no comms, no backup, and no idea of what they will face. Day 89. Half a world away, the cloud has reached the east coast of the U.S. With nowhere to run and no hope of survival, the American people have descended into madness, turning on themselves and each other. From the sidelines, an old Tennessee sheriff watches as his country unravels, but he can't bring himself to take the easy way out. Quitting isn't in his DNA, so when one of his deputies asks him to help protect your family, he leads them west, chasing a miracle, a rumor of an old nuclear bunker that just may be their only hope for survival. Because if the cloud doesn't kill them, what's hiding in the dark will. All right, so let's talk about what I liked and what I didn't like about this. So first of all, what I liked, and the funny thing about it is some of the stuff that I liked is also kind of blending over into some of the stuff that I didn't like. So I'll try to separate it as best I can. One thing I liked and also did not like was that there are so many different genres in this book. There is sci-fi. There is horror, or a combination of both, sci-fi and horror. There's military fiction, all right? There's a lot of military jargon, a lot of military mumbo-jumbo. You got all kinds of stuff about tanks, about planes, about guns, all kinds of military stuff, all right? There's dystopian. I mean, the world is ending. People are breaking off into gangs. There's all kinds of crap going on and stuff. Of course, then there's one horrifying or terrifying scene with a mass suicide where the survivors or whatever come upon this big mass suicide, just absolutely terrifying. And then there's, let me think, I'm trying to think, post-apocalyptic, or whatever. Actually, well, would it be post-apocalyptic or what? Maybe not. Kind of in the middle apocalyptic. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there's just so many genres, and a lot of them work, but it also felt like the author was just taking whatever genre he could take, throwing it at the wall, and seeing if it was going to stick, all right? And that's not necessarily always a good thing. Now, in this case, in most instances with it, it was, all right? I love the sci-fi and horror thing, especially the horror part. I'm not a big sci-fi fan, but when you throw in a big bug-eyed monster, and that is exactly what they do in this book. I mean, these monsters are big, they're ugly. I think they're described as being like 15 feet long, 5 feet across, just teeth and everything. And they kind of reminded me a little bit of the creatures in A Quiet Place. And they also reminded me of these creatures. Did you ever see a movie called Feast? Feast is where these big, ugly, big teeth monsters are trying to get into this bar in the middle of Texas. And the people inside the bar have got to figure out a way to keep these things out. And that's what some of these monsters remind me of in that. So there's that. That was a like and a dislike for basically the same thing, all right? The other thing I liked about it is this. There is pretty much non-stop action throughout this book. From the very get-go when you have the big explosion, nuclear explosion at this plant in Switzerland. And then the ball keeps rolling from there. I mean, and it barely takes time to breathe. Barely takes time to stop, all right? So, yeah, there's that. There's that non-stop, pretty much almost non-stop action. I really enjoyed that, all right? So let's talk about the things I liked. I love the bug-eyed monsters. I love the non-stop action. I love the fact that part of this is written in the horror genre. Or if you go sci-fi horror or whatever, you can do that. All right, there you go. Now let's talk about what I didn't like. The character development in this book is almost nil. All right. He just gives you enough information about the characters to keep the ball rolling. You don't really know too much about their backstory. You don't know too much about why they're in the situation they're in before this whole thing happens. A good example is Clay. Now, you do know that Clay was Clay's one of the bad guys. All right, you do know that Clay was in prison, and that he was let out of prison, or he got out of prison somehow and now he's continuing his story. Excuse me. Other than that, you don't have any idea why he was in prison. It doesn't really give you a good idea of what type of person he was before all this happened. And the same is the case with a lot of the other ones. With Trace, the sheriff. You don't really know much about him, except he's an old sheriff. He's got a son. That's kind of it. And he thinks his son is dead, which I'm not going to go into that. All right? Yeah, so that is the main thing I didn't really like about this. Also, I told you there is almost nonstop action, and that's cool. That's great. And when it is, it's awesome. But whenever this book slows down, it is boring. You're doing the whole thing of, going from one place to another. That gets boring. And it's hard to write. I don't think you can write that excitedly anyway, in an exciting fashion anyhow. Look at Stephen King's The Stand. Anytime they were doing the whole thing with them going through the tunnels and stuff like that, I was just like, oh gosh, please, I'm going to read this part so I can go to sleep. All right? So yeah, that's the parts I didn't like. I didn't like the lack of character development, and I did not like the parts that just did not have much action to them because, like I said, they were boring. Overall, I like this book. I'm going to give this book a 3.5-star rating. I think this book's kind of on the fence with how people felt about it. I've heard good reviews of this book. I've heard not so good reviews of this book. I guess you could say I'm just a little over into the good reviews part since I'm right there in the middle, 3.5 stars. But anyway, that is my review of Monstre, Volume 1 by Duncan Swan. Again, thank you, Duncan, for sending this to me. I told you I would do an honest review, and that's what I'm doing, man. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's going to do it for this review of Monstre, Volume 1. Thank you guys for watching. This is going to post tomorrow afternoon. It's Tuesday now, so it'll post on Wednesday. It'll post Wednesday afternoon around 2:30. Thank you guys for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.